I used to think my voice was my only weapon. In a crowded room, at a dinner table thick with unspoken judgments, in the vulnerable space after a confession, I would reach for it, this desperate, chattering shield of words. I would explain, clarify, justify. I would offer my motivations on a platter, seasoned with apologies and garnished with needless detail, hoping that if they just understood me, they would finally value me. I believed, with the fervent faith of a convert, in the gospel of transparency. To be open was to be honest. To be friendly was to be safe. To explain oneself was to build a bridge of trust over the murky waters of misunderstanding. I filled every silence with the sound of my own reasoning, terrified of the vacuum, convinced that emptiness would be mistaken for ignorance or, worse, guilt. And what did this earnestness earn me? I watched my words, my carefully crafted explanations, get twisted into weapons I never intended. My transparency became a map I handed to others, highlighting every one of my vulnerabilities, my soft spots, my triggers. They didn't use it to understand me. They used it to manipulate me. My constant speaking diluted my presence, making me a background hum, a familiar noise that could be easily tuned out. My value wasn't just dismissed. It was negated by my very effort to assert it. I was the open book everyone skimmed. I failed to grasp the fundamental, brutal truth of human psychology. What is readily available is rarely coveted. What is easily explained is instantly dismissed. The world does not reward the explainer. It rewards the enigma. It does not bow to the noisy. It is hypnotized by the quiet. The real power, I discovered, lay not in the noise I could make, but in the silence I could keep. It was a power born not of aggression, but of absence, a form of control exercised through sheer, terrifying restraint. This is the dark, beautiful secret the masters have always known. As Nietzsche piercingly observed, those who know that they are profound strive for clarity. Those who would like to seem profound to the crowd strive for obscurity. For the crowd believes that if it cannot see to the bottom of something, it must be profound. They fear what they cannot place, and they respect what they fear. This is the art of measured silence. The philosophical atomic bomb you detonate simply by closing your mouth. It is the practice of Jung, who understood that the unspoken word is often the most powerful, and Schopenhauer, who saw in solitude and quiet contemplation the pinnacle of intellectual independence. By the end of this, you will unlearn the desperate need to be heard. You will see the fearful glances of those who once demanded your explanations for what they truly are, a tribute to your newfound power. You will understand why your quiet presence, once mistaken for weakness, now has the terrifying, potent authority to influence, to dominate, and to command respect without you ever uttering a single word. We live in a world that worships at the altar of noise. It is a cacophony of opinions, a relentless broadcast of curated lives, a desperate symphony of everyone proving they exist by the volume of their pronouncements. To speak is to be. To be loud is to be important. This is the lie we've been sold, a pacifying narrative designed to keep us visible, predictable, and utterly controllable, because the true seat of power is not on the stage, but in the shadows of the audience. It is in the quiet observation, the withheld judgment, the unspoken thought. While the many clamor to be seen, the few who understand sit back and see everything. The psychology is primal. Speaking is an act of giving, giving information, giving away your position, giving away your energy. Silence, by its very nature, is an act of receiving. It is a vacuum that pulls information, energy, and attention toward it. The quiet person is not absent. They are a gravitational field. This is why they are perpetually underestimated. The noisy mistake their silence for emptiness, their calm for complacency. They are written off as shy, simple, or scared. This is the quiet one's greatest advantage. Under the cloak of being underestimated, they are free to observe, to analyze, to strategize. They are not participating in the game. They are studying the rules, memorizing the tells, and identifying the weaknesses of every other player on the field. They are secretly, masterfully, being worshipped through the very act of being overlooked. Every glance thrown their way, every attempt to provoke a reaction, is a silent admission of their looming presence. Nietzsche, that master psychologist of the will, understood this intimately. He saw restraint not as weakness, but as the ultimate expression of strength. To react is to be controlled by an external stimulus. To remain silent in the face of provocation, to withhold your opinion in a storm of debate, is to assert a supreme form of self-mastery. It is to declare that your inner world is so fortified, so certain, that it requires no external validation. The strength of a person's spirit, he wrote, would then be measured by how much truth he could endure, or more precisely, to what extent he needs to have it diluted, disguised, sweetened. Silence is the refusal to dilute your truth with the cheap wine of unnecessary conversation. This is the hidden power. It is the power of the deep ocean over the crashing wave. The wave is loud, dramatic, and immediate, but it is the ocean that holds the mysteries, the depths, the leviathans, and the true, unimaginable force. The wave crashes and dissipates, desperate for the shore. The ocean remains, silent, profound, and eternally powerful. There is a peculiar, instinctual fear that the silent individual evokes. It is not the fear of a raised fist or a shouted threat. It is something far more primal, more insidious. It is the fear of the unknown, the unquantifiable, the blank page. A talking person is a known quantity. Their words reveal their agenda, their insecurities, their intelligence, their moral framework. You can categorize them, file them away, and know how to manage them. But a silent person? They are a locked vault. And the human mind, in its terrified arrogance, would rather break the lock than tolerate not knowing what's inside. This fear is born from projection. The insecure, the manipulative, the guilty, they are haunted by their own inner chaos. Their minds are a noisy, clattering space of unresolved conflict and hidden shame. When they encounter a profound silence, it acts as a perfect, soundless mirror. In your quiet, they are forced to see the reflection of their own noise. Your calm becomes an unbearable amplifier for their internal turmoil. They cannot stand the silence because it gives their own demons a stage. Your refusal to engage is interpreted as a judgment, a condemnation, because that is the only language their own noisy conscience speaks. It triggers a deep-seated insecurity. The constant talker needs your reaction to feel validated. They need your agreement, your argument, even your disdain, anything to confirm their existence. Your silence denies them this sustenance. It is a form of psychological starvation. They throw words at you, like stones into a bottomless well, and wait for the echo that never comes. The absence of that echo is terrifying. It suggests a depth they cannot fathom, a self-containment that renders their attempts at provocation or connection utterly meaningless. You are not playing by the rules of social validation, and it unnerves them to their core. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow is critical here. He posited that we all carry a hidden, repressed part of ourselves, our weaknesses, our primal urges, our darkest potentials. We spend our lives trying to keep this shadow hidden, even from ourselves. The silent person, by offering no persona, no mask of their own, becomes a blank screen onto which others project their own shadow. They see in your silence what they most fear in themselves: coldness, calculation, ruthlessness, or a profound indifference. They are not afraid of you. They are afraid of the parts of themselves they see reflected in your quiet mystery. Your silence is a threat because it is autonomous. It cannot be controlled, charmed, or manipulated with social cues. It does not seek approval. It does not ask for permission. It simply is. And in a world of people desperately seeking external validation, the person who needs none is the most dangerous and terrifying creature of all. Mystery is not merely the absence of information. It is the deliberate curation of it. It is the art of revelation and concealment, a dance between light and shadow that captivates the human psyche like nothing else. We are hardwired to solve puzzles, to close loops, to complete the narrative. When faced with a mystery, our minds cannot help but engage, obsess, and invent. A person who speaks freely provides all the answers, closing the loop themselves. They become a solved puzzle, instantly familiar and just as instantly discarded. But the silent, mysterious individual? They are an open question, and the human mind will tirelessly, relentlessly, work to answer it. This is the source of their magnetic respect. We do not value what we fully comprehend. We value what we are still in the process of understanding. The silent person forces others to invest cognitive energy in them. Every glance, every subtle gesture, every rare, measured word is scrutinized, analyzed, and woven into a narrative. Because the mind abhors an information vacuum, it will fill the gaps with its own imagination. And what the imagination creates is always far more powerful, more fascinating, and often more intimidating than the reality could ever be. You become a story they are telling themselves, and who doesn't become enthralled by their own creation? This aura serves as a formidable psychological tool. It commands attention without demanding it. It inspires curiosity, which is the gateway to influence. People lean in, they listen more intently on the rare occasions you speak, they assign greater weight to your opinions because they feel earned, not given away freely. Your words become scarce resources, and as with any scarce resource, their perceived value skyrockets. Niccolò Machiavelli, that ruthless cartographer of power, understood the potency of mystery intimately. For a prince, he advised, it was not always necessary to possess all virtues, but it was absolutely necessary to appear to possess them. Appearance was everything. And how does one control their appearance? Through careful revelation, through strategic silence. Everyone sees what you appear to be, he wrote. Few experience what you really are. The mystery is the buffer between your true power and the world's perception of it. It allows you to control the narrative without ever having to defend it. The quiet individual understands that their power is not diminished by being unknown. It is amplified by it. They become a legend built on whispers, a reputation constructed in the minds of others. They are the blank canvas upon which others paint their awe, their fear, and their respect, using brushes dipped in the colors of their own imagination. You are not a person to them. You are a phenomenon. And one does not argue with a phenomenon. One observes it, fears it, and reveres it. The most profound power of silence is its reflective property. It is the ultimate psychological mirror, held up not to show the silent one, but to reveal the true face of the one who stands before them. When you offer no reaction, no rebuttal, no affirmation, you create a vacuum of response. Nature abhors a vacuum, and human nature abhors it most of all. People will rush to fill that silent space, not with your truth, but with their own. In the absence of your words, they will supply the dialogue. They will project their intentions, their assumptions, their biases, and their deepest insecurities onto your blank slate. The manipulator will see calculated opposition. The narcissist will see unworthy disdain. The anxious will see hidden judgment. The guilty will see silent accusation. Your silence becomes a Rorschach test, and what people see in it reveals nothing about you and everything about the contents of their own shadowed hearts. This is a form of psychological jiu-jitsu. You use their own energy, their own need for narrative and validation, against them. Without lifting a finger, you turn them inside out. They will confess, boast, over-explain, and reveal weaknesses you never had to probe for. They will hand you the keys to their psyche simply because your quietness made them uncomfortable enough to try and fill the space. You become a master interrogator who never has to ask a question. The silence is the question, and they cannot stop themselves from answering it. This dynamic creates immense psychological leverage. By understanding the fears and desires someone projects onto you, you gain an unparalleled map of their inner world. You know what they value, they'll assume you have it. What they fear, they'll assume you'll use it. And what they lack, they'll assume you judge them for it. This knowledge is power. It allows you to navigate social dynamics with the precision of a surgeon. You know which silent cues will unnerve a rival, which will intrigue a potential ally, and which will disarm an aggressor. The silent person does not win arguments. They render them obsolete. Why debate a point when your quiet composure can make your opponent passionately argue against a position you never even stated, revealing their own irrationality in the process? Why defend yourself against an accusation when your silent reception of it can make the accuser hear the absurdity of their own words echoing in the void left by your non-response? You become a calm lake. The agitated person who throws a stone cannot blame the lake for the ripples they themselves created. They are forced to confront the fact that the disturbance came from them, and them alone. Your silence holds them accountable to their own chaos. It forces them to sit in the mess they made, with no one to clean it up for them or to blame for its creation. In this way, silence is not a retreat from conflict. It is the highest, most dominant form of engagement. The human brain is a prediction engine. Its primary mission, rooted in the deepest survival instincts of our ancestors, is to map the world, identify patterns, and forecast outcomes. We crave predictability because it creates a sense of safety and control. We label people, put them in boxes, and assume we know how they will react. This is how we navigate the terrifying complexity of social life. The person who is loud and constantly explaining themselves is the ultimate predictable entity. They provide a constant data stream, allowing everyone to chart their course, predict their storms, and feel secure in their understanding. The silent individual shatters this illusion of control. They are a black box, a statistical outlier, an equation with too many variables. Without a constant stream of verbal data, they become fundamentally unpredictable. And in the human psyche, unpredictability is synonymous with danger. If I cannot predict your actions, I cannot prepare for them. I cannot defend against them. You become a potential threat, because a threat is, by its very nature, an unpredictable variable in my safety equation. This is why the quiet composure of a hero in a film is so much more terrifying than the rabid snarling of the villain. The villain's rage is a known quantity. The hero's calm silence, you don't know what he's going to do. That unknown is the source of true tension. This perception is a form of power. When you are seen as unpredictable, people approach you with caution. They think twice before crossing you. They afford you a wider berth, a deeper level of respect, a respect that is essentially a polite form of fear. History and literature are filled with figures who wielded this power. Think of Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name. His silence made him an enigma, a force of nature whose motives were unclear and whose actions were therefore terrifyingly potent. Think of real-world figures like chess grandmaster Bobby Fischer, whose unnerving quietness at the board was seen as a psychological weapon, or President Calvin Coolidge, nicknamed Silent Cal, whose reticence often left opponents flustered and powerless, never knowing where they stood. The philosophy of power has long acknowledged this. Sun Tzu's The Art of War is essentially a treatise on the strategic use of unpredictability. Appear where you are not expected. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night. To be silent is to keep your plans dark. To be quiet is to appear where you are not expected, because no one knows what to expect from you in the first place. You command attention and respect not because you are known to be powerful, but because you might be powerful. The potential of your power, hidden behind a veil of silence, is infinitely more potent and commanding than the loud, obvious, and predictable power of the braggart. Every word you utter is a tiny abdication of power. It is a transfer of energy from the internal to the external, a piece of your psychological sovereignty given away. Think of your presence as a concentrated tincture. Every time you speak unnecessarily, you dilute that tincture with water. The more you explain, justify, and elaborate, the weaker the solution becomes, until your essence is so watered down it is indistinguishable from the background noise. You become a part of the static. Over-explaining is the language of the subordinate. It is what children do to parents, employees to bosses, defendants to judges. It is a performance of accountability designed to appease a higher authority. When you voluntarily over-explain in a context of equality, you are unconsciously assigning the other person a position of judgment over you. You are seeking their validation, their acquittal. You are broadcasting a deep-seated insecurity. Please believe my version of events. Please approve of my motives. This need for approval is the antithesis of power. Justifying yourself is a defensive stance, and a defensive stance is, by definition, a reaction. It means you are being controlled by the accusation, the expectation, or the perceived slight. You are dancing to someone else's tune, using your energy to manage their perception of you. The person who feels no need to justify their actions operates from an unassailable core. They are the judge, not the defendant. Their validation comes from within, making them impervious to the external demands for explanation. Apologizing when no apology is due is perhaps the most potent dilution of all. It is the unconditional surrender of your standing. It frames you as the one at fault, the one who must make amends, the one whose position is inherently inferior. Constant, unnecessary apologies train the world to see you as a person who is supposed to be apologized to. From a Jungian perspective, this constant verbal output is a failure to integrate the self. It is a leakage of psychic energy because the inner world is not yet solid, not yet self-validating. It still requires external confirmation to feel real. Carl Jung saw the journey of individuation as the process of building a solid, internal citadel. The master of this self knows that not every thought needs to be expressed. Not every motive needs to be examined by the committee of public opinion. Restraint, then, is the mastery of self. It is the ability to hold your energy, your ideas, and your truth within the fortified walls of your own being. Speaking should be a choice, not a compulsion. Power lies in the ability to hold the fullness of your thoughts and remain still. When you do speak, your words, now rare and concentrated, will carry the weight they deserve. They will land not as chatter, but as pronouncements. They will be listened to, because you have trained the world that your voice is not background noise, but an event. While the world performs, the silent one watches. This is the great strategic advantage of quietude. When you are not preoccupied with the composition of your next sentence, the defense of your last point, or the management of your image, your cognitive resources are freed up for the highest value activity, observation. You become a collector of truths, a student of human nature, operating from a place of unparalleled awareness. The social world is a grand masquerade. Everyone is wearing masks, playing roles, and following scripts written by their insecurities and desires. The loud person is so busy performing their own role, they rarely have the presence of mind to see the performance of others. But the silent observer, they see the cracks in the makeup. They hear the slight tremor in the boastful voice. They note the fleeting micro-expression of contempt that contradicts the friendly words. They see the script, the actor, and the stage machinery all at once. This allows you to detect manipulation in real time. You see the leading questions, the false flattery, the strategic pauses designed to provoke a response. You are not caught in the emotional current of the conversation because you are standing on the bank, watching its flow. You can identify weakness, the way someone's eyes dart away when making a claim, the nervous fidgeting that betrays a lie. You can discern true desire, what people genuinely light up about versus what they feel obligated to praise. This is the practice of cold reading the human soul. Nietzsche's aphorism, "He who knows when to stay silent knows when to strike," is not necessarily about aggression. It is about strategic action. The strike is the perfectly timed word, the insightful question, the subtle maneuver that shifts the entire dynamic of power. It is effective because it is not random. It is the product of intense study. It is the chess master's move, planned 10 steps ahead while the opponent was still thinking about their next piece. Your silence is your laboratory. Every interaction is an experiment from which you gather data. You learn what motivates each person, what frightens them, what they truly crave. This knowledge is a currency more valuable than any spoken argument. When you finally choose to engage, you do not do so blindly. You speak to their core. You can offer the exact validation they secretly hunger for, or you can apply the precise pressure to their deepest insecurity. Your words, because they are rare and informed, become incredibly potent. You are no longer a participant in the game. You are its analyst. You understand the rules better than the players because you are not distracted by the act of playing. Your power comes from this elevated perspective. You see the entire board while everyone else is focused on their individual squares. In the economy of attention, you are the investor, not the spender. And that is how you amass a fortune of influence. There is an iron law in human psychology. We respect what we cannot control. We are fascinated by what remains just out of reach. The need for control is a primal drive, a way to impose order on a chaotic world and to assure ourselves of our own agency. When we encounter a person who is emotionally detached, who is not seeking our approval and is not swayed by our attempts to influence them, it triggers a deep, almost instinctual, response of respect. This detachment is the natural aura of the silent individual. By not speaking, you are not feeding the social exchange. You are not offering the conversational tokens, agreement, laughter, reassurance, that people use to build rapport and establish control. Your silence is a form of emotional independence. It signals that your inner state is not contingent on their approval, your mood is not a slave to their actions, and your value is not up for their negotiation. This absence of need is magnetic. People are drawn to those who are self-contained because they represent a psychological ideal. Freedom. They are not entangled in the web of needing to be liked, understood, or validated. This is incredibly rare, and like any rare thing, it is valued. People will strive harder for the respect of a detached person than for the friendship of an eager one. The eager person's approval is cheap. It is given freely. The detached person's respect is a scarce commodity, and humans are wired to want what is scarce. This dynamic creates a magnetic authority. Your power is pulled from you. You do not have to push it onto others. Your silence becomes a fortress, and people outside will naturally assume that whatever is inside the fortress must be valuable. Otherwise, why would it be so well guarded? They project strength, wisdom, and confidence onto you because your detachment does not allow them to see anything else. Philosophically, this speaks to the immense power of the unrevealed. The artist who understands that what is left out of the painting is as important as what is put in. The writer who knows that the horror you imagine is far worse than the horror they could describe. True power exists not in what you display, but in what you choose to withhold. Your thoughts, your emotions, your past, your intentions. These are your treasures. To give them away freely is to make them common. To guard them behind a wall of calm silence is to make them legendary. Your silence is a declaration of intrinsic value. It says, I am so complete in myself that your understanding, your agreement, or your approval is not a necessity for my existence. This is the most profound and unassailable form of authority there is. The world can try to ignore a shout, argue with a point, or dismiss an opinion, but it has no answer for a quiet, complete, and utterly detached sovereignty. In a world teeming with emotional vampires and psychological warfare, silence is not just a weapon. It is the most impenetrable shield you can possibly raise. Most social manipulation, guilt-tripping, and emotional coercion require one crucial element to work: your participation. They need you to engage, to argue, to justify, to get emotional. Your reaction is their fuel. Without it, their tactics sputter and die at your feet, powerless. When a manipulator throws a barbed comment your way, they are fishing for a reaction. They want you to bite, to get flustered, to ask, "What do you mean by that?" So they can feign innocence and twist the knife further. Your silent, calm reception of their words provides no hook to set. The insult hangs in the air, and its ugliness, having no target to stick to, reflects back onto its sender. They are left alone with their own toxicity, and it is a deeply uncomfortable place for them to be. Silence protects your energy. Engaging in pointless debates, defending yourself against baseless accusations, or entertaining dramatic narratives is a massive drain on your psychological resources. It pulls you into other people's storms. Choosing silence is choosing to remain in the eye of the hurricane, a place of perfect calm while chaos whirls around you. You conserve your energy for what truly matters, rather than wasting it on the emotional games of others. This is a key Jungian insight into maintaining inner sovereignty. Carl Jung emphasized the importance of boundaries between the individual and the collective, between the ego and the unconscious. Constant, unguarded speech is a leakage of your ego's contents into the world, leaving you vulnerable to being shaped by external forces. Silence is the boundary that maintains the sanctity of your inner world. It allows you to process events internally, on your own terms, without external interference. You decide what enters your psyche and what meaning you assign to it, rather than having that meaning forced upon you through fraught interaction. By not speaking, you give nothing away. You provide no ammunition to be used against you later. You offer no vulnerabilities to be exploited. In a negotiation, in a conflict, in a moment of tension, the first person to speak often loses, because they reveal their position. The silent one forces the other party to reveal theirs. Your shield of silence deflects their probes and turns their own force back upon them. In this way, silence is the ultimate act of self-preservation. It is a non-violent, supremely powerful form of resistance. It is the practice of saying, "You have no jurisdiction here." You protect your time, your energy, your emotions, and your truth by simply refusing to offer them up for public consumption. Behind this shield, you remain whole, unharmed, and entirely your own. There is a profound and unsettling paradox that lies at the heart of human dynamics. Calmness can be terrifying. We expect a certain rhythm to emotional exchange. An insult should provoke anger. A threat should elicit fear. A tragedy should invite grief. These are the scripts we know. They create a sense of predictable order. But the person who remains preternaturally calm in the face of chaos, they break the script. And anything that breaks our fundamental understanding of how the world should work is perceived as a threat. Your quiet composure in a heated argument is not seen as strength by the agitated. It is seen as a deep, personal invalidation. Their emotional outburst is a performance, and they expect you to join them on stage. Your refusal to react is like a standing ovation that never comes. It implies that their drama is not worthy of your energy, that their anger is not powerful enough to move you. This is a narcissistic injury of the highest order. Your calmness becomes a mirror reflecting the absurdity of their lack of control, and it is a reflection they cannot bear to see. This is why insecure, chaotic individuals are so triggered by calm people. The calm person's inner peace highlights their inner turmoil. Their centeredness accentuates the other's instability. The silent, calm individual operates from a center of gravity that is entirely their own, and this gravitational pull can disrupt the unstable orbit of those around them. It forces the insecure to confront the frightening possibility that their emotional storms are a choice, not an inevitability, and that is a truth too terrifying for many to face. History provides powerful examples. Think of the Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, who led the Roman Empire with a calm detachment that made him impervious to the petty dramas of the court. His famous meditations were a guide to finding an inner citadel that no external event could breach. In more recent history, figures like Mahatma Gandhi used calm, silent non-compliance as a weapon that terrified and ultimately dismantled the British Empire. The empire knew how to fight violence with greater violence. It had no playbook for fighting relentless, peaceful calm. The quiet, calm person is threatening because they cannot be controlled through conventional means. You cannot manipulate them with guilt. They see it coming. You cannot intimidate them with anger. They find it fascinating. You cannot sway them with hysteria. They observe it clinically. They are a psychological fortress, and their calm silence is the unbreachable wall. This forces the chaotic individual to confront their own powerlessness, and from that place of powerlessness, the only response is fear. They are not afraid you will hurt them. They are afraid you will reveal to them, through your unshakable calm, that their entire emotional reality is a fragile, self-constructed cage. We have misunderstood the value of presence. The modern mantra is to be always on, constantly available, perpetually connected. We believe that omnipresence is a form of influence. This is another lie. The law of scarcity is a fundamental principle of human desire. The less available something is, the more we value it. This applies not just to objects, but to attention, presence, and connection. Your constant availability makes you common. Your selective absence makes you coveted. The silent individual understands the power of absence intuitively. By not always contributing, their contributions become events. By not always being present, their presence becomes a notable occasion. This is strategic withdrawal. It is the practice of making yourself scarce to increase your perceived value. When you are always there, you become part of the furniture, comfortable, expected, and invisible. But when you disappear, people notice. They wonder where you are. They discuss your absence. Your name comes up in conversations you are not there to hear. In your absence, you become more powerful and more present in the minds of others than you ever were when you were physically in the room. This plays on the deepest fears of abandonment and social insignificance. When you withdraw, you force people to confront the possibility of a world without your presence, and in doing so, you remind them of your value. It is a negative space definition of your importance. You are defined by the hole you leave behind. This is why the silent, often absent individual can command a room when they finally choose to enter it. Everyone has been primed by their absence to receive them. Nietzsche captured this perfectly with his concept of the pathos of distance. This is the feeling of reverence and awe that is created by social and personal distance. It is the necessary space that allows for admiration to grow. He understood that to be revered, a figure must not be familiar. They must be distant, elusive, and rarely seen. Familiarity, as the saying goes, breeds contempt. Distance, however, breeds awe. Your silence is a form of continuous, micro-absence. Even when you are physically present, you are psychologically absent. You are withholding the most valuable currency in the modern world, your attention. This scarcity of attention is a devastatingly powerful tool. It means that when you do give your attention to someone or something, it feels like a reward. It feels earned. People will strive for it. They will modify their behavior to get it. By saying less and being less available, you don't diminish your influence. You concentrate it into a potent, irresistible force. We have misunderstood the value of presence. The modern mantra is to be always on, constantly available, perpetually connected. We believe that omnipresence is a form of influence. This is another lie. The law of scarcity is a fundamental principle of human desire. The less available something is, the more we value it. This applies not just to objects, but to attention, presence, and connection. Your constant availability makes you common. Your selective absence makes you coveted. The silent individual understands the power of absence intuitively. By not always contributing, their contributions become events. By not always being present, their presence becomes a notable occasion. This is strategic withdrawal. It is the practice of making yourself scarce to increase your perceived value. When you are always there, you become part of the furniture, comfortable, expected, and invisible. But when you disappear, people notice. They wonder where you are. They discuss your absence. Your name comes up in conversations you are not there to hear. In your absence, you become more powerful and more present in the minds of others than you ever were when you were physically in the room. This plays on the deepest fears of abandonment and social insignificance. When you withdraw, you force people to confront the possibility of a world without your presence, and in doing so, you remind them of your value. It is a negative space definition of your importance. You are defined by the hole you leave behind. This is why the silent, often absent individual can command a room when they finally choose to enter it. Everyone has been primed by their absence to receive them. Nietzsche captured this perfectly with his concept of the pathos of distance. This is the feeling of reverence and awe that is created by social and personal distance. It is the necessary space that allows for admiration to grow. He understood that to be revered, a figure must not be familiar. They must be distant, elusive, and rarely seen. Familiarity, as the saying goes, breeds contempt. Distance, however, breeds awe. Your silence is a form of continuous, micro-absence. Even when you are physically present, you are psychologically absent. You are withholding the most valuable currency in the modern world, your attention. This scarcity of attention is a devastatingly powerful tool. It means that when you do give your attention to someone or something, it feels like a reward. It feels earned. People will strive for it. They will modify their behavior to get it. By saying less and being less available, you don't diminish your influence. You concentrate it into a potent, irresistible force. Camera with flash AI image prompt 1. A grand dining hall with a long table filled with people. The head chair is empty, but set more elaborately than all the others. Everyone is glancing at it, awaiting the occupant who is absent. Camera with flash AI image prompt 2. A single, perfect footprint in the sand on a vast, empty beach. It suggests someone of immense importance was there, but is now gone, leaving only a powerful trace of their presence. 12. The final revelation. Mastery through silence. We have journeyed through the shadowed corridors of power, guided by the faint, unwavering light of silence. We have seen how the quiet ones are feared because they are mirrors, because they are unpredictable, because their calmness is a subtle threat to the chaotic. We have learned that speaking dilutes our essence, while observation grants us unspoken knowledge. We have discovered that detachment commands respect, that silence is a shield, and that absence, paradoxically, amplifies our presence. This is the final revelation. Mastery of the social world, and indeed of the self, is achieved not through the volume of your pronouncements, but through the depth of your silence. Power is not taken. It is conceded by others the moment they realize they cannot comprehend you. Influence is not seized. It is magnetically drawn to those who no longer need to seek it. This is not a call to become mute or antisocial. It is a call to become strategic. It is the art of the measured word. The practice is simple, yet requires immense discipline. Listen to understand, not to respond. Let the silence after someone speaks hang in the air. Absorb everything. Before speaking, ask, is this necessary? Is this true? Does this serve my power? If the answer is no to any, hold your tongue. Embrace the discomfort of silence. Let other people feel it. Their squirming is the sound of their own insecurity, not your failure. Cultivate your inner world. Read, think, and reflect. Fortify your citadel so brilliantly that you feel no need to give guided tours of it to passers-by. Be selectively present. Value the quality of your interactions over the quantity. Make your presence a gift, not a given. You now hold the key. The world has trained you to believe you must be loud to be heard. But the profound truth is that you must be quiet to be listened to. Your value is not determined by the noise you make, but by the silence you intelligently keep. So step into the world anew. Let your actions speak where words would only dilute. Let your calmness unnerve those who thrive on chaos. Let your absence be felt as keenly as your presence. Become a mystery that commands respect, a depth that inspires awe, and a silence that thunders with authority. The world bows not to those who speak the loudest, who explain the most, who clamor for the center of attention. The world has always, and will always, bow to those who command the room in silence. They are the ones who understand that the summit of power is not a place of noise, but a peak of immense, formidable, and absolute quiet.